Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Mathkada, the podcast. I am Princess Nicole Magalonga, your DJ of the night. You're tuning in for tonight's episode, and I'm with the cast of Mathkada. Please introduce yourselves to the studio.
So do I go first or Ivan? I'm Robert Christian Valdez Ortega. Uh, well,
What's your role on Mathkada, the movie?
oh, I played as Joaquin, the artist in the video that we made.
How about you, Ivan? Kindly introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Aivan Manabat, and I played the role Jello in our movie film.
Okay, so for tonight, we just received a message that Kate is currently not available for the interview of tonight's podcast. So, tuning in with our episode, let's proceed with our first segment. Alright, our first segment is our learning objectives of this podcast. So, everyone, in this project, you're to show your reflection on the different topics that we learned in the course. By reflecting on our learning and its meaning, we'll be able to realize the value of the experiences that we had in studying the contents of this course. As students of GEMATMW or mathematics in the modern world, you are expected to relate the newly gained learnings to your prior knowledge and then find a way to use them in your personal life. This project output can be done in the form of a podcast where members of the group converse on various concepts they have encountered in the course. It could also be in the form of a recorded Zoom meeting, and be creative. So, hello again. Good evening, world. Good evening to everyone tuning in on this podcast. This is DJ Nicole, and you're listening to Mathkada, the podcast. So, we just introduced ourselves as part of Mathkada. We congratulate everyone who is here tonight for filming Mathkada and for successfully finishing the film. Congratulations, everyone. Clap, clap.
Congratulations to us.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to us, guys.
Okay, before we go straight to our topics to be dealt with, let me ask you guys a question. What's the first thing that came to your mind when you first heard that the title of our film will be Mathkada? What's your insight about it?
Well, it was obviously a play on the word barkada. Well, I didn't actually know much of the planned plot yet when this title was brought up. So for me, it was interesting. It's math and barkada. So obviously there'd be something about a group of people and that they like math. That's what came into my mind at least so far. What about you, Ivan?
Yeah, I like the name because it's not just Mathkada. The whole name is actually Mathkada, past equations and present solutions. So not only does it talk about math and us being barkadas, it also talks about our past life, our present life. It's not just us in a group. We're not just friends in a group. It also speaks about our past lives, and it speaks about our origins and maybe some relationships and friendships of the like.
Exactly. So, how did playing the role of Jello and Joaquin change your perspective on the whole Barkada thing about math as the reason why people became friends and eventually still having this strong connection all throughout college until 10 years later until they successfully have their own careers and become successful in their own lives. So, yeah, how did playing both roles of Joaquin and Jello change the trajectory of your perspective in life?
Well, for me at least, it was actually a very interesting thing to be pointed out in terms of a social setting is that they are all united by their love for math. They obviously all this cast has a passion for math that is but that is not their main passion. Normally, when people associate being good with math and just being, good with this topic, your passion is this topic. People will tend to think that that's the main goal. That's your main, what you go for. But for them, math is something that they love. Yes, that is true, but it isn't the central figure of their lives. Actually, they all have separate passions that all relate to math tangentially and that bring them together as people and as friends. And so math does play a very massive, it's a very big role in their lives and their passion for it, but it works in a supplementary kind of setting for them. It isn't what their life revolves around, and it's actually very interesting to be pointed out in terms of a setting, in a group setting. They all love it. It's just not something that, well, it's major, but it's not everything. If Yeah, you know what
Yeah, yeah. Because in the movie, I just finished watching it actually. Well, congrats to the director. If
Wow.
I just finished watching the movie, and what I like most about the film is how you guys were able to come up with this concept of friends and then math as the whole point of the topic. Like if there was no math, then there was no friendship, right? So
Exactly.
so yeah, based on how I view your movie itself and the concept, I was very amazed with the writers and the director, the actors, specifically the actors, especially Clara, Jello, Joaquin, and Nika. You all gave such a wonderful impression on the audience. It was a superb talent, I swear. It was really good. So moving on, as students who are currently studying mathematics in the modern world, how does the movie bring a concept to people about math? How does this movie change people's perspective on math?
uh well, I think Ivan should be the one to answer this.
Okay, you go,
Yeah.
Ivan.
To be honest, many people think that math can sometimes be useless. Like, how would I apply algebra in my real life? Like, diba? But this mathematical course, this course of mathematics in the modern world, teaches us that math is actually very applicable in real life. It can be used in communication technologies. It can be found even in nature and arts. It can be used in math in efficiency, and math has a lot of practical uses. And just because it's algebra doesn't mean you can't use it. And I hope that learning in this course can make people realize that math is a lot more useful than just numbers. That's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree.
exactly. It sums up what the main point of this movie. So moving on, because I discussed to you about the movie, and of course, we personally interviewed the characters of Jello and Joaquin. Also, we congratulate Clara and Nika for doing their best on this film. Alright, let's proceed with our questions for tonight. These questions were actually sent by the audience just this evening as well. They messaged me for Mathkada podcast, specifically for Mathkada characters. So, yeah, feel free to volunteer if you want to go first or if you want to say something.
Well, obviously the concepts that we learned in this course, they are all really important, in terms of I'm in the engineering course, so they're very important to me, manufacturing into mechatronics. And there's a lot of things about game theory, optimization problems, uh, interests, just in terms of finances too. They're all really useful to the course and for when you're programming, especially yung mga linear programming and stuff that we've learned.
Yeah.
Just in general, it all helps us a lot there.
Yeah,
Ivan, what?
yeah. As for me, there are modules in this course that I can easily apply to my field in mechanical engineering. One of these is actually mathematics and efficiency. The topics allow me to better understand the most practical assignment of team members, should I choose to become a project head.
Interesting. So, out of all the modules discussed on this topic, mathematics in the modern world, what's like your favorite among all the modules discussed? Name three. Three modules. Yeah.
Mm,
Hmm.
let me think. I have two in my head. I'll think of my third one.
You want me to go first while you're
Yeah,
thinking?
yeah. No, you go first. Why?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, sure. Sure, Ivan.
The three modules that I like the most in mathematics in modern world is first language, then math and finance because it's actually applicable to me in the future, and mathematics in decision science. And one concept that struck my attention the most in mathematics in decision science is actually game theory. That idea that all the options can be presented in a simple tree is actually quite ingenious for me, in my opinion. How about you, Jello? Or I mean
Uh,
Ortega?
wait, did you say me? Okay.
Yeah.
For me, it is actually we have the same. It's linear programming and game theory, and the the logic ones. They are all very interesting to me, especially this is a bit more in depth, but I already knew about linear programming years ago. But when I revisited it to touch up on it for this quarter, for this course subject, I actually found some very interesting things about it. I just like I noticed what do you call it, link between the optimization problems in general and some linear algebra concepts and how they all use different forms of matrix forms to solve their problems, such as linear programming. That's obviously a matrix with the size depending on the variables and the amount of equations, as well as using basically a row reduction for the transportation problems. It was very interesting for me. Anyways, yeah.
How about you, Princess? What topics did you like the most?
Well, among all the topics discussed in mathematics in the modern world, what I am more interested the most was mathematics as language. When we talked about the falsity and the truth table, it's what I was very interested about because I can be able to use this kind of concept on my field, specifically the liberal arts, where we usually analyze premises, hypothesis, conclusion, stuff like arguments. And so, learning about mathematics as a language would give me the fundamental skills, specifically on critical thinking and analysis, on how to better identify whether things are true, whether things are false. Of course, with the utilization of numbers such as 0 and 1, 0 for false and 1 for true. But in my field, I'll be able to apply this in terms of like arguments, whether an argument is true, whether it is false, whether the premises are not in sync, or whether they do not have cohesiveness in terms of representing an idea or a thought. So I guess that's what interested me most. The second one is mathematics in game theory, specifically on like the maximum strategy. Although it's one of the most like the hardest lessons that we tackled in my perspective, because I was very like curious and kind of confused on how to better utilize the concepts. But at the same time, I was able to learn when I read the book Essentials in the Mathematics World. And lastly, I like mathematics in nature and the art because I admire how mathematics can be represented through different variations of art, maybe through visuals, shapes, objects, abstracts, fractals that represent lines such as horizontal, vertical, or like different representations which contain mathematical concepts in that regard. So moving on,
Oh wait,
let's see.
actually, what's your course again, Princess?
Oh, my course is political science. and I'm from the College of Liberal Arts.
Oh, yeah.
So, to be honest, guys, I actually struggled with math the most because I did not take calculus and stuff like that when I was in senior high school. So, entering college with no basic skills on calculus and like finance and math really made me struggle with this subject. That's like a fact. But for me, I'm still able to enjoy the subject, although I had like a lot of breakdowns because of this subject. But all in all, it's still, it's a challenge because not all the time you're able to experience easy subjects as you go through college. So this is like a wonderful learning experience that we get to experience failures, and at the same time we get to learn something from it.
Yeah.
So moving on. Oh, wait. Okay, let's proceed to the next question. What particular concept struck your attention most in module blah 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 blah? Explain why. Okay, so earlier we discussed about the modules that we like best, 3 modules. Okay, so explain to me now how these concepts will be able to help you as you go through college and even in your future career endeavors. How will these concepts, specifically the chosen concepts that you mentioned earlier in mathematics in the modern world, will help you navigate your future career endeavors? And of course, the paths that you will be taking in the future. Any volunteers for this?
I'd like to hear
question?
Ivan's. I'd like to hear Ivan's perspective first.
Okay, go
Yeah,
Ivan.
about that, in my mechanical engineering career, one of the biggest paths or paths you can take is being in the managing head. And for example, mathematics and efficiency can really help me with this role. Assignment problems would be very often a big part in the managing role in the mechanical engineering industry. So applying what I learned in mathematics in the modern world will be very helpful for me. How about you, Jello?
Ortega.
Ortega.
For me, it's actually only tangentially related to
Relaxing.
yours, but this is more on my personal life. For me, game theory, the topic, bringing attention to game theory to me again. I did study a bit of it back in high school, but I never really thought much of it, and then I realized now that uh, it actually is a pretty interesting topic because like for me personally, because I work when it's vacation or in summer. I work a side gig as game development for others or for my own indie games, and it's actually really interesting to have a logical formulaic methodology for imagining what your players would be doing in the games because normally for me when we're testing our games, you just sort of go off the vibes, just what you think is going to happen, what you think the players are going to think of. Being able to break it down to an actual logical decision tree, assuming a logical player, and also is actually really useful, and it's also really good for programming in general because you're able to use these algorithms that you are able to think of when you're using game theory. You're able to apply these algorithms in your actual, like code and stuff, programs that you need to be working. Okay, that's all for me.
Good answer.
How about you, Ivan?
He already answered.
Yeah,
Oh.
I believe I
Nice.
already answered.
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay,
I
it's okay.
forgot. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. What are your views on learning B concepts discussed in this course? Are there topics or concepts that are too easy or too difficult to understand? Feel free to mention if there are like subjects or like topics that you found most difficult to deal with. Explain your experiences. Yeah.
I found the cipher ones difficult because di ko memorize yung alphabet.
Same, same. actually agree with that, Jan. But for me, the concepts discussed in this course is actually true to its name. It really is mathematics in the modern world. It teaches us a little bit about everything math related to specific topics like language, communication technologies, nature and arts, and more. But I wouldn't say there are any topics that are too easy, except for mathematics and efficiency, which for me was pretty much the most difficult module for me as it involved a lot of calculations. How about you, Princess? What do you think?
Hmm, can I say I found all topics difficult?
Super rounds.
Well, because for me, in my experience, this is like the first time that I experienced a mental block on an exam and I did not know what to put on my answer. So I left them blank and I got the lowest score on the exams. But honestly, from those experiences, I learned that it's really normal to experience these kinds of struggles, especially in college. That the subjects that we're taking are a little difficult, specifically on this subject, mathematics in the modern world, since we did not just tackle math, like simple math on numbers alone, but we analyzed things in the real world through language, communication, technology, art, what else? Finance. And the topics that are too easy for me in my perspective are, of course, first, mathematics in the language, which I enjoyed most because of the truth table. I love doing the truth table. But in terms of analyzing the finances part, the word problems on the finance stuff with the formula, my mind was blank there. So I think it's difficult also, as well as the coding, especially the binary. What else? Binary, decimal, as well as the different coding techniques, like the cryptography. There are a lot of cryptography. Well, I enjoyed cryptography in terms of like substituting numbers with letters because that's what I enjoyed most. But in terms of like deciphering something and you're just given numbers, I just couldn't. I just couldn't do that. Yeah, I struggled a lot with these topics. How about you, Ortega?
What are your views on? Yeah, I already said my answer here before. I don't alphabet.
Okay. So, as we move on to the next part of our podcast, is there any particular concept or knowledge that you suddenly became more curious about that you now have become interested to learn on your own? What is it and why have you become interested in it?
Hmm. I can go first.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
One particular concept that I became curious about while listening in this course was the golden ratio. Because ever since then, I've wondered why it always shows up so often in nature. It's like it's a specific ratio that transcended through evolution, which is crazy for me. Such a random number, and yet you see it everywhere. What do you think, Ortega?
Yeah, that is a very interesting ratio. The golden ratio for me, it's not really something I really think about much. You know, of all the, I'd say it's part of the big three of math. What do you call it? Math numbers. You know, you have pi, you have Euler's number, then you have the golden ratio. But it's sort
Yeah.
of like it's sort of it's sort of the weaker of the three in my opinion. I barely ever see it, so I never really think about it. The golden ratio. What does it even use for? But yeah, it is. It does appear all around nature. It analyzes the proportions of natural objects, right? It's very
Yeah.
interesting, and it's really interesting how it links to art and like architecture and stuff like that because it's such a connection that you never really expect to make. They're sort of in the opposite spectrums of ideas when you think about math. Yeah, really, they're not really close together there. So
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect. As for me, the particular concept or knowledge that I suddenly became more curious about, that I'm interested to learn more on my own now, is I think mathematics in finance, because I feel like that's actually the most practical among all the topics that we discussed, since as we go through life, we realize that math will eventually be part of our life until we grow old. So learning mathematics is in finance is actually the most practical thing that we all should, be interested in. And for me, that's like the most important concept of math, the finance part. Because as we go through life, as what I mentioned, we are exposed to how finances work, like how we're able to utilize money, stocks, and things like that. So yeah, that's basically it. Mathematics in finance, which I feel like is my weakness. So I think I'll have to learn more about that in the future. All right. Out of all these questions, name 3 words that best describe your experience in this course. Disclaimer, guys, be creative. 3 words that describe your experience in this course. I'll be giving you a minute. Okay, a minute for the 2 of you to think about.
I guess it's, for me, the 3 words that I would use is let me think. I'd say it's been informative. This course has been informative. It's taught me a lot, but recently it's recapped me about a lot of topics that I've forgotten about. It has been interesting. It definitely does bring some genuinely interesting topics to the table, and I will definitely be learning more about them in the future. And it has been inciting. It's incited, I think, this applies for a lot of us. It has incited us to study more, to learn more about the world around us and how mathematics applies to that. Mathematics applies to this world around us in all the various ways that it affects our lives and can improve them or enrich them. Yeah, that's my few words: informative, interesting, and inciting.
Wow, I love those words. Perfect. How about you, Ivan? How about you, Ivan? Name
For me, it's
3
actually
words.
It's actually quite similar to what Ortega said. And first, it's definitely interesting because it exposes us to mathematics in a lot of genres. It's not like a simple addition or subtraction. Mathematics is actually seen in a lot of topics. And the second word I would use is hard, because definitely there are a lot of hard topics like finance, efficiency, and communication technologies. I don't even remember the alphabet, similar to Ortega. But lastly, you gotta admit though, it is actually very useful. You can easily apply this to any course you have in your life. That's pretty much it for me.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Ivan. I think you explained the experience as well with Ortega.
Yay.
As for me, the 3 words that best describe my experience in this course, the first word that I thought of is perplexing. Perplexing means it's confusing. Because honestly, the concepts that we discuss are perplexing. They're confusing if you don't listen to the teacher, or if you have a hard time understanding the concept, you'll be confused and but at the same time, it is mind-blowing. Like, wow. Because, well, mathematics in the modern world will truly make you realize that indeed there is math in the modern world. There is language, communication, technology, art, nature, and the graphs, transportation, things like that. Like everything around us is composed of math. And so we will eventually realize that we cannot escape math. No matter what I did in senior high, I took Humes because I don't want to take math. I realized that everywhere I go, anytime, anywhere, everywhere, there is math, and I will never ever be able to escape math. And the last word that I can describe my experience is abstract. Abstract because math is abstract itself, right? Like, it's not just composed of subjective ideas or things like when you add this and this, you'll get this. you'll get to realize that mathematics in the modern world will take you to places that you've never been before. It will make you realize that there's so much more to discover in this world than just basically learning like how to solve numbers. Like out of these concepts, you'll eventually realize that learning math is way beyond more than digesting numbers itself. It's about absorbing how these lessons can be applied to yourself and to your future endeavors. Before we eventually end our Mathkada podcast, I was able to receive the pre-recorded videos of Kate, Nicole Montero, because currently she's not available at the moment. But then she was able to send me her videos on the reflection questions. So at this point, we will now be listening to Kate's answers. All right. Kindly mute yourselves as we will show the video of Kate on the screen. Thank you. Wait, I'll mute myself too. Wait. Okay.
So I am Kate Montero, and I'll be answering questions for my reflection. So how can I apply concepts I've learned in this course to my field, which is business? As someone who aspires to be a business leader, I recognize the importance of financial literacy, particularly in borrowing and investing, because understanding these concepts will allow me to make financial decisions while minimizing unnecessary risks. So basically, like, knowing how much to borrow is essential for funding my future capital, and just as important is the responsibility of managing debt wisely to ensure financial stability. So on to the second question. Now, one concept struck my attention was in the module of mathematics and decision sciences, specifically the voting systems and their criteria, because I used to think voting was simply about counting ballots. But after the discussion, I realized that there was multiple voting methods and criteria that could influence the outcome or the result. So this deeper understanding gave me a new perspective on how decisions are made in different contexts. What are my views on learning the concept discussed in this course? So I found these mathematical concepts to be highly practical, especially in finance, because as a business major, throughout high school I was familiar with math but never explored its real-life application. Now I see its relevance, and while these topics can be challenging, they are ultimately valuable in everyday decision making. To the fourth question, is there any concept or knowledge that I'm suddenly more curious, it would be that one topic, which was cryptography. Because I think there may be a time when I have to use encrypted communication for privacy and security, whether it's for business or personal reasons. And having the ability to use a secure method of communication could be beneficial for protecting sensitive information shared with friends and family. On to the last question. Now, if I have to describe my experience in 3 words, I would say it's challenging, interesting, and useful. Because initially the concepts were very difficult to grasp, but when I started understanding them, they became more engaging and intriguing. But overall, these topics are incredibly practical and applicable in real life. So they're worth learning.
Alright, that's it for Kate's reflection on Mathkada podcast. Before we end our podcast, let's invite the audience to watch our short film, which we uploaded just this evening on YouTube. You may check out our short film on my personal account, Princess Nicole Magalonga, and you'll find our short film entitled Mathkada, Past Equations, Present Solutions, written by Aivan Manabat and Princess Nicole Magalonga. And the characters are Jello, Joaquin, Nika, and Clara. So that's our wrap up for today's podcast. We thank everyone for tuning in on tonight's episode, and don't forget to rest this evening and chill as we finish mathematics in the modern world. Thank you once again. This is Princess Nicole Magalonga, your DJ of this evening.